two main laws in the state of Michigan that have recently are on the forefront. And it's interesting, elections really do have ramifications.
Oh, yeah.
So our governor was reelected. But then in addition to that, she claimed both the Senate and the House, and the Supreme Court flipped in the state of Michigan. So it's got a liberal advantage. And our Attorney General is an LGBTQ activist. And so they have made it their agenda to make Michigan the most LGBTQ plus, and whatever other alphabet soup you want to add onto there, affirming state in the union. And so because of that, two laws that are on the forefront. One is called the Elliot Larson Law, and it adds to the existing civil rights law. Our Supreme Court just affirmed that, you know how it used to say you can't discriminate in hiring based on on religious faith or on sex. Well, now they've reinterpreted sex to mean gender presentation, sexual orientation, and there is no religious exemption to that. So it used to be churches or religious institutions were protected from that, but now there's not even that safeguard anymore. So now there are at least two cases that are right now being pursued in the state of Michigan against a Christian college, I believe, and a Christian school. The second law, and this is even more extreme, is basically it's a law that makes misgendering somebody a felony in the state of Michigan. So if somebody, the way the law reads is if somebody feels intimidated or threatened because you refuse to use their preferred pronouns according to their gender identity, then that is a felony, and it can be subject to $10,000 fine, jail time, and being forced to go to a re-education camp.
There you go.
So that's about ready to be, it hasn't been yet, but it's about to be signed into the law. And so, you know, we're living in that type of a climate, and it's not just in the cities, it's It's in the small towns and the small schools. My executive pastor just stood up in front of his school board, and basically there's books in the libraries, and they've got an issue with trans kids wanting to use the opposite bathrooms, and you know the parents are up in arms, but it's mandated now. And so as leaders, as pastors, to not talk about these issues is negligence.
Absolutely.
It is negligence of the sheep.
You're not equipping the people to deal with what's happening right now. And what happens is they become intimidated.
Yeah,
that's right.
And they just end up complying to what's going on because their pastor and their leaders don't have enough courage.
Well, if it was important, our pastor would talk about it, right?
That's exactly right.
And I work, you know, parents are like, I work 40, 50 hours a week. I come home trying to just put food on the kids. I don't have time to research this. I don't have time to dig. I'm just trying to survive. And if we don't talk about it, then all they get is what the kids are getting at school or what they're watching on media.
Well, I had on my program, on my podcast recently, the Tipping Point podcast, I had Yaku Boyens, and he deals with sex trafficking. It's 90. So he was talking about the movie Taken, and he said 1% of sex trafficking is kidnapping. They don't do that. They're at home. The kids that are being trafficked are mostly still at home, and his sister was sex trafficked for 6 years, and that's how he got into this. And they're on social media, and the groomers. They have groomers. And the groomers are going online, and they're masters at manipulating these kids. And they're sitting there. Their parents aren't paying attention to them, or their parents aren't paying close enough attention to them. But most of the trafficking is someone within their familial environment. Wow. Someone that they know. The person that trafficked his sister was one of their family's best friends. And so they come in, and what he was saying is, if there's ever been a time that parents need to be vigilant, it's right now.
That's right.
And if there's ever been a time the church, and so he told the story, and Jimmy and I talked about this. He told a story about Upper Room Church in Dallas, a great church, and that's where Yaku and his family go. And so they said, would you come in and train our people? And he will. Just look it up, Yaku Boyens Ministry, JACOBOOYEN. Great guy, great ministry. But they equip parents and they equip churches. They have a tremendous amount of information on their website. So Upper Room Church called him and said, would you come in and train us in the sex trafficking and all that? Sure. So he went in and trained him on a Monday. Wednesday night, they called him and they said, we've got something happening up here if you can come up.
It was that close?
2 days.
Yeah, I was there that weekend that happened.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you spoke for him.
Yeah.
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 So so on Wednesday night they called him. He said 25 minutes later I walked in. They had a young man standing in the middle of the room with his hands up, worshiping, praying for people. People were praying for him. He was a groomer, and he was acting like a groomer. And so that's why they called. So Jaco walks up to him and just starts talking to him, asking him questions. Well, so the kid gets nervous because he knows this guy's onto me. So the kid, texts, and he walks out the front door of the church, and he followed him. Jaco followed him out there. The door opens. The number one sex groomer, the number one sex trafficker in the state of Texas is sitting in the car, waiting for this kid at a church. And he starts getting in the car, and Jaco said, "You don't have to get in that car, And the kid turns and said, "No, I've got to go." So he gets in the car. And so what he was saying is, in church youth groups, kids are they're infiltrating church youth groups. So and again, every pastor, every parent, you can't play dumb anymore.
That's right.
The world is just too dangerous, and they're coming into these kids in their homes. They're not taking them out of the homes.
Yeah.
In the homes. What you don't realize, what these girls don't realize, is they have all the power. If they're found out, they're not going to get in trouble. This guy's going to go to prison. But there's so much manipulation and intimidation there, but it's pervasive. And so he said, in any zip code in America, including Highland Park in Dallas, Texas, any zip code in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, this is going on all the time. I can't remember, I think it's a $150 billion a year industry.
Yeah, it's huge.
And so it's massive. And the church, by and large, is just completely ignorant of it. And I was too for a long time. But we have to be talking about things that matter.
Yeah.
We have to be able to war spiritually. This podcast is built for war. We have to get a war mentality, not toward people that we're trying to reach, but toward the enemy that is unashamed in his desire to destroy people's lives.